And now we're going to talk to Abigail Bassett from Yahoo Autos, who is fresh off the plane before jet lag hits you. I want to talk to you about the presentation you attended in Stuttgart for the Mercedes-Benz AMG GT. So how are you, Abby?
I'm good. I'm like you said, a little tired, but it's good actually to be back in the States again.
Excellent, yeah. So I'm curious about the car because I only obviously have seen it in pictures, and to me it like has a lot of the SLS, especially in the front, and it's hard to really see the proportions compared to other cars. They're talking about this is a potential Porsche 911 competitor, so I wanted to hear your opinion about that.
Sure, yeah. This is only the second car that AMG has completely developed in-house, the first one being the SLS. So they took a lot of the learnings that they had with that original car and applied them to this one. It does have sort of that long nose, a real rear-wheel drive proportions. It does have some similar lines to the SLS, but it actually in person looks a lot better than it does in photographs. It seems that photographs sort of stretch out that nose part a little bit more and diminish some of the nice detail lines along the shoulder lines and hip lines that make it really stand out in just a really good-looking car.
Yeah, that's also something that happens very often. I mean, it's happened to me in recent years with first with the Corvette when I saw it actually in person on a stage in Detroit and then on the road. It really changes your perspective of the car. So it's also kind of interesting to see how Mercedes-Benz took so long to have something to compete against the 911, no?
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of an interesting entry into the space. The 911 does 0 to 60 in 4.0 seconds. The GT is reported to do 0 to 60 in 3.9, which would be obviously just a hair faster. And the GTS is supposed to do it in 3.7. That's all, preliminary numbers. They still have some time to firm that up. And it's interesting that they're getting into this space. Obviously, pricing hasn't been announced yet because the U.S. market won't see the GTS until 2015, and the GT won't be available until 2016. But it does seem like Mercedes is definitely aggressively going after that Porsche buyer who wants a good-looking two-seater for driving around and taking out on the track. And the GT and the GTS definitely offer those kinds of options.
And have they talked about this being a car that will stay in the market, not forever, but for a long time, as opposed to the SLS, which was kind of a limited edition car? I mean, they stopped making that one, right? I don't think they're going to make that anymore. So what's the plans with this one?
Yeah, that's right. They're stopping production on the SLS and launching production. They're doing it in their AMG factories in Alpha-Back, which is actually where the presentation took place. And they actually just started production on those engines. And it's actually kind of a unique engine for Mercedes. It's what's called a hot inner V, which essentially means that the turbos are located inside the manifold. Inside the cylinder bank, rather than outside, making the engine smaller and more efficient. So you're getting a lot more power off those turbochargers, which is also kind of an interesting thing. But it does seem like they're really going sort of aggressively after the sports car market, and we'll see. I mean, it's going to depend on how well these cars sell. And given some of the feedback that I've read online and seen and heard some of my colleagues talk about, people really like the way this looks. It's aggressive. It's definitely very much in line with the new styling that Mercedes-Benz has rolled out over the last few years. And it just continues sort of their dominance in that space for sort of their very high-level cars.
Yeah, and I guess this was a presentation just to see the car. I have attended some of those, which are kind of frustrating because you just see the car and you don't get to drive it, right? Were you able to drive it this time?
Yeah, no, not this time. They had actually a bunch of the camouflaged cars out in the back, and didn't get a chance to see any of them drive. Did get a chance to hear it start up, and the engine sound is really phenomenal. There's actually a YouTube video going around online that Mercedes-Benz put together that is sort of a joke of two sound engineers trying to decide what the new AMG GT should sound like, and they were trying to decide between a combination of a jet engine and a lion's roar, and it really does sound like that in person. But unfortunately, no driving happened while I was out there. So that should happen soon.
Yeah, we'll have to wait for that. I understand actually the international launch for that is going to be here in the U.S. So maybe, I don't know, you will be there, and hopefully I will be there too, and we can share more information about this car. So your story on Yahoo's Autos is already out, and have you have a chance to see some of the comments from your readers? A lot of the readers have really been interested in this car. Obviously, as an SLS replacement, obviously is sort of a long-term strategy for Mercedes-Benz in the sports car market. And the feedback generally, even though the car does sort of seem to get a little elongated in photographs, generally the feedback on at least the looks has been very, very positive. So. Yeah, so they're targeting the 911, but also, I mean, Jaguar just came out with the F-Type, which is more or less in the same segment, right?
Yeah, it's priced a little bit lower than the 911, but it is sort of in that competitive set. One of the things, obviously, with Jaguar is that their reliability has come up in the last few months. They've actually just recently released a report that I read the other day that Jaguar's reliability has come up. So it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out, particularly in that, very high-end market that these cars are all sort of going after.
Yeah. And another part of your trip that I was following your social media tweet was that you visited the Classic Center for Mercedes-Benz, and that must have been a really cool experience, huh? I mean, some of the pictures of the cars are just incredible things that they have there. Is that in Stuttgart?
Yes, that's actually in Stuttgart. It's the Classic Center is actually located not far from the center of town, and they have a variety of things there. They have cars that they actually sell, so classic Mercedes-Benzes that they have purchased from previous owners, and you can go in and buy one. They also take a lot of some of the one-off cars that Daimler Mercedes-Benz has built over the many, many year history and restore them back to their original glory. So actually this year at Pebble, they brought back a Streamliner from the 1938. It was a car that was built to be a long-distance racer and was built for a Rome to Berlin race. And they showed it at Pebble Beach this year and did a beautiful restoration, 2.5-year restoration on it. And we got to take a look at that and see some of the stuff that was back in sort of their hallowed halls, which is where they store a lot of the one-off cars that they've created for Mercedes-Benz.
And that's different from the actual museum, right? But as you said, the Classic Center is open, I guess, some part of it, at least to the public, where they sell those cars?
Yes, absolutely. It is different from the museum. But yes, you can, as a customer, you can go in and make an appointment to take a look at some of the cars and see what is actually available for you to take home.
Well, you have to take a lot of money to do that, I guess, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, Abigail Bassett from Yahoo's Autos, thank you very much again for your time, especially after just getting off the plane from Germany. So I really appreciate that, your time, and obviously the information you share with our audience.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Abby. I'll see you soon.
All right. Sounds good.
Bye.
Este programa fue una producción de National Latino Broadcasting.